And good evening, and welcome to a recruiting webinar for Civil Air Patrol this evening called Building Better New Member Packets. Improve what you put in your prospects' hands. Hopefully, I've got a number of people here tonight checking the chat window. I think I'm checking the chat window. Anyway, good evening. My name is Lieutenant Colonel Darren Ninnis. I'm the National Recruiting and Retention Manager for Civil Air Patrol, and I'm here to talk to you a little bit about new member packets. So, let's talk a little bit about building new member packets. I need to make a small adjustment to my screen here so I can see if anybody wants to chat. In any event, so building new member packets, we're going to talk a little bit this evening about how member packets fit into your process, in the recruiting process, in the informational process of new members joining a Civil Air Patrol unit. We'll talk a little bit about what member packets should contain, and then how to build them, and a little bit about what they cost, what kind of things go into it, and what you can expect to spend. So a lot of what we're going to talk about this evening it has some parallels in what generally is called the sales process. There's a lot of parallels there. Recruiting is a good friend of mine, Major Bob Hassey from Michigan Wing, used to say recruiting is sales. And to some extent it is. I'm not a very good salesman, or at least I don't like to think that I am. But, when you get right down to it, you are convincing somebody to part with time and or money to join Civil Air Patrol and do something with their time, which is a commodity that not everybody has a lot of. So in that process, in the sales process, there's an old adage that they use. It's AIDA. You talk about awareness, interest, decision, and action. That's the basic sales process. For you build awareness of a product, or in our case, an organization, and then you are able to gather some interest. When people show interest in what you're doing, that's somebody who's interested. That's a qualified prospect, or a potentially interested individual demonstrates their interest by reaching out and either attending a meeting or a membership event you might have. And at that point, they really move from a potential member to a prospective member, or a prospect. So when they reach the decision point, their prospect is making a decision to pursue Civil Air Patrol membership a little further. At this point, where the membership packets come into play, the ones we're talking about tonight, this is where that prospect becomes a prospective member. And lastly, there's action, and that's the follow through to the decision, where the prospective member takes action steps to become a member. They do an application, they visit the membership board, they get their fingerprints, they pay their dues, that sort of thing. So AIDA, awareness, interest, decision, and action. And in a lot of sales discussions, they'll talk about what they call the sales funnel, and where you've cast a wide net and you're seeing a lot of people in that awareness aspect, and then you move down the funnel, and as people become more interested and it's time for them to make a decision and take action, then it's less and less. You might expose Civil Air Patrol to 1,000 people, but maybe only 100 are actually going to show interest. And of that 100, maybe 25 or 30 are going to make a decision that they want to find out more. But out of that 20 or 30, maybe only 25 or 20 actually take action. So it's like a funnel. That's the way to think about it. So at the top end, you've got the part where you're advertising, you're in community things like parades and air shows and local activities. You've got your social media game right on, and you're doing those sorts of things. Those are the things that are going to bring people inside what I like to call that 1 meter radius. The maximum effective range of recruiting is 1 meter, face to face. That's where you're in there and you're talking to people and you're doing things, and you're right there face to face, looking them in the eye and talking to them about the specifics of membership. So that whole awareness thing is really designed to get you into that range. And that's anybody who shows up. If you put 500 flyers out for an open house and 50 or 60 people show up, these are people whose interest was piqued. They are there to find out more. They're interested parties. They've taken another step. They're not just somebody who needs some eye candy put in front of them. No, no, these are people who are literally interested in being there. So you can do things, like I said, like an open house or a STEM fair or a specific membership event, or even just they come down to a meeting. So right here at that interest point, this is where the unit needs to be putting its best foot forward. The person who's shown interest, now you want to show them something to match that interest. The next phase, of course, like I said, is the decision-making process in the funnel. So it's based on the unit experience. The prospect is going to make a decision right then and there. They're going to say, well, yeah, this looks like something I want to be involved with, or well, maybe not. It looks like maybe the time commitment's too much, whatever. That's fine. They can make a decision right there. So at that point in time, that's when, when they decide, hey, I'd really like to pursue this further. This is where you're going to put a membership packet in their hand, really. If you think about it, these last two steps, the decision step and the action step, are where that membership packet has that biggest impact. Okay, they've made a decision. They're interested. They're beyond interested. They're like, yeah, I want to know more. I want to take this to the next level. This is where you put something in their hand that they can go home with. They can look over. They can see it at their own leisure. That sort of thing. And that then leads them into that action step where they're going to submit that membership app, pay their dues, meet with your unit membership board, and keep coming to meetings and doing the training. So, like I said, this is the kind of thing that helps when people go home. That prospective member visits a CAP unit and they see all kinds of things. And to be honest with you, if you're doing it right, or maybe if you're not doing it right, but if you're doing it, it might actually be one of those kinds of things where they wind up with more questions than answers. Either they weren't comfortable asking a question during the open house presentation, or they didn't realize they had a question until somewhat later when they were sitting there reading the packet or surfing the internet and finding out more. And, now they do have a question. So the kind of questions they're going to have is, between your recruiting pitch and your membership packet, you should be able to answer most of those questions. Maybe not all of them, but most of them. Things like, how do I join? Well, how much is this going to cost me? Well, this is really interesting, but what kind of time commitment is there? Yeah, everybody's got these great uniforms. Do I have to buy all of them? A mom might be like interested. What's this summer thing that you keep talking about? A cadet might be, hey, can I fly jets? That sounds really cool. So they need to understand this, and some of the information in that membership packet is going to help you with that. So keep in mind that these membership packets are information that you hand over to a qualified prospect to help them along in the membership decision-making process. Once they've made their way down in that sales funnel, they're within your 1 meter recruiting range, and you can talk to them about their interests and desires. They get an idea how interested in membership they really are, and that's when you hand over a packet. That prospect isn't just somebody off the street. They're an interested person, okay? So at this point, your packets need to be really long on information and kind of short on the marketing superlatives. There's no real reason to, lay it on thick. Oh, we sank all these submarines, or whatever we want to talk about. Oh, we did 8 million in 2 hours flying search and rescue, or, whatever the thing you feel is necessary to talk about. That's the kind of thing that builds the interest. Now we're at the decision and action point. They're already moving along. Now you want to give them the way forward, the steps. This is somebody that's mostly sold. So kind of stop selling them and tell them what's going on and what's in store. And keep in mind, if your unit is a together professional unit, shouldn't your member process reflect that? That's kind of important. What does this look like? Think about this. Is this how you want to represent your unit? I would be lying if I told you I've never seen somebody write how to join Civil Air Patrol on a napkin. That would be an absolute lie. I have seen it, and I've seen it more than once, and I've seen it in more than one unit. So is this professional? No. Would you want to join an organization that doesn't even know what its own membership process is? Absolutely not. So telling a prospect, hey, just Google the steps, it's not the way to convert interested prospects into long-term members. They're going to look at this and they're going to say, these people don't even know how to join their own organization. Why do I want to join? So it's important to know the questions that you're answering. That's the goal, really. So when you're building packets and you're thinking about putting membership packets together, your prospective member is starting from next to zero knowledge of Civil Air Patrol. Put yourself in their shoes. They didn't know what a level 1 was or a Curry achievement. That's completely alien concepts to them. So always think about what you're doing, but doing it from their perspective, but with the unit's ultimate membership goals and needs in mind. Okay? You're there to provide a roadmap. For example, does your personnel officer really want to continually convene a membership board? Or do you want to just get all the membership boards done in one night? If that's the case, then your membership materials need to reflect that. You need to say, okay, after you've decided on the 23rd, whatever night it is, but the 23rd, we're going to come in and do membership boards that night. So if you're interested in membership, that's the night you need to be here with a filled out application, with your check in hand, and we'll put you in front of the membership board and they'll make a decision. This is the time really to guide them in the process. So it's easy on them and it's easy on you. So it's important to know the questions that you're answering with your membership packet. And determine what you need and you don't need. So sometimes your unit's presentation of the Civil Air Patrol program will often, they'll bring out some questions in your prospects. And what my unit does could be different from what your unit does. There's a lot of units that they do it one way and they get a question more so, say, questions about uniforms, whereas another unit might get more questions about flying because they have an airplane, or another unit might get questions about how to be a pilot because they're a senior squadron. So every unit is a little bit different. So always, 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 think about the questions you're going to need to answer that are specific to your unit. Okay, not every parent or prospective member will think to answer or ask questions while they're at the unit. So your package needs to guide your prospect from A to B and B to C in the membership process. Keep it simple. But remember, while this is an opportunity to start to set the standards, don't be so prescriptive and onerous that the prospect says, nope, I'm out. Way too much for me. Keep the jargon down to a minimum, use real concrete language, and remember that it's a guideline. Give them some simple steps, show them what they need to do, give them the pieces what they need to do. What I'm going to show you here in a minute or two here is some just sample materials, some stuff that we use in our unit, but it's just some ideas. You don't have to use this. Not every unit needs to use everything. Just keep it simple. Start out small. There's no reason to get crazy, but don't overdo it. There's some units I've been, and their membership pack is about 1.5 inches thick, and it's like, yeah, I don't want to wade through that. I'm tired just looking at it. So always think about it from that prospect's point of view. So when we talk about starting simple, good membership packets start with a folder. Put a folder in your prospective cadet or prospective senior member's hands. They can put their membership paperwork in it. They can put anything they need in it. Now it's something they can carry to and from Civil Air Patrol. You can get inexpensive folders. They're not expensive. They're, 60 cents a piece or so. You can get those at any decent office supply store. Pick a color for each membership category and kind of stick with it once you've done that. That way you don't have to relabel them later if you have extras. In my squadron, we use blue for cadet and red for senior member. That way it's real easy. Create a welcome letter. Add a welcoming letter from the commander. I've also seen some squadrons that have, in the cadet packet, their welcome letter is from the cadet commander. So basically you're just saying, I'm glad you want to become a member. Here's how. Keep it simple and always be fine-tuning it, and use the outline for the way forward for your prospect. Use this opportunity to outline that way forward. Remember, these things aren't set in stone. If you find something that doesn't work, be ready to change it so that it does work. Always err to the side of brevity. It may break loose more face-to-face conversations later if you don't go to great lengths and explain everything. If you make it too long, people are going to stop reading. What's that phrase online? Too long, didn't read. So always answer the how to keep going question. The next thing is a how to join sheet. A very simple step-by-step. First I do this, then I do this, then I do this. For cadets, don't forget you're talking to the parents, not necessarily the cadets. So make sure you're straightforward and you're parent-centric. And don't expect somebody to do something or have something in the membership process, like say a DD-214 or their I-9 documentation, if you haven't been clear that they need to bring it. Okay. How many times does somebody sit down in front of the online membership application and they have to verify a cadet's identity, and mom didn't know that she was supposed to bring in her son or daughter's birth certificate or passport. So now you got to add another step to that. And now mom's going, well, geez, didn't they know this? So this is your opportunity to make it look like you guys have got your stuff together. A cost breakdown, sorry, not a cost breakdown, sorry, I'm reading my notes ahead. I gotta stop doing that. Unit info. So this is, people, like I said, undoubtedly they're gonna have questions. Give them individuals to reach out to, the unit subject matter experts, the people who can give them concrete information to help them make their decision and smooth the way forward. If somebody's a pilot and they're interested in flying, they need to talk to your squadron DO, okay? If they're going to be a senior member or they're going to be a cadet, maybe they need to talk to somebody in the cadet programs group. So it's important that they know who to talk to. And it's also important that you make sure that you say when your meeting days, times, and places are. I can't tell you how many times I've seen a membership packet that was very long on what they needed to do to become a member, but then it was like, well, are the meetings every week? At what time? I forget, and mom and dad didn't know that. So you always think about it again from that parent or prospective member perspective. What do they know or don't know? And help them know it. A cost breakdown. It's always good. Whether you're joining the Civil Air Patrol or you're buying a car, nobody wants to be surprised by hidden costs and the great unknown. Spell it out up front. Give moms and dads an idea of what they can expect that first year, including encampment, uniforms, all that stuff. A sort of total cost of ownership, if you will. But spell it out. These are some example things from what my unit uses, and we're real clear. New cadet dues are $42. The initial insignia and supplies kit is $65. Here's the pieces and parts of your uniform. When you go to get these things, you're going to get it with this, you're going to get with the Curry voucher, this you're going to have to pay for, etc. Moms and dads are very, very, very seldom surprised by costs because of the way we lay this out. Lastly, you want to lay out the next steps. In our case, an upcoming schedule, when things are going to be, especially the membership steps. In our case, we have a new member in processing night that we do in my unit where everybody brings their stuff in on one night and we do it all at once. So we want to make sure everybody knows, all right, you got a membership packet at our open house on the 22nd of March. That's great. Basic training starts next week. Here's the uniform you should be in, jeans and a t-shirt. The membership in processing is on April 5th, and there's more information in here about membership in processing. And it sets those expectations. This first year roadmap for cadets. Give them an idea what they're going to do in the first 60 days, the next 90 days. When are they going to get into an airplane? When should they prepare for summer encampment? When are they going to get promoted? Well, here's some ideas. It's not perfect, but it's some idea of a basic roadmap that shows them where things are going to go. You can get a little more extravagant later on, but initially keep it simple and learn how to iterate that process. Rome wasn't built in a day. As you go, you'll find out the questions your packets are aren't answering, and then you can go back and update your materials to actually go and answer those questions that are unique to your area and the prospects that you get. Like I said, Rome wasn't built in a day. Do you think we started with these packets? No, absolutely not. These have grown over the years. Didn't happen overnight. My unit's membership packets in 2002 were nothing. There were a couple of stapled together pieces of paper and a cap form 15 or 12. And then we started to build that process where the packets were just the front end of it. Now we have a whole thing, the open house, then a Q&A night for parents, and then in processing night, and BCT starts, and that sort of thing. So we've got it all laid out now. And in theory, with all of this information, if I somehow drop dead, because I'm the guy that usually coordinates the packets, if I somehow drop dead tomorrow, maybe somebody could pick it up and run with it without having to go through too much trouble. A couple things to think about membership packets. Remember, you don't want to hand these out to every single person who says, "Hi, what is Civil Air Patrol?" That's for your inexpensive 2-cent open house flyers, information sheets, things that are going to get them down to the unit. Okay. You want to save your big guns for later. The membership packet, you save that for later on in that funnel. Okay. You put a membership packet in their hands after they've come to the unit and shown an active interest to help them make that informed decision. Okay. We normally hand out about 30 cadet packets, and we get back on a good night, anywhere between 15 and 22 new cadets in each one of our cohorts that we do. So we might have, 40, 35 or 40 young men or women at our open house night interested in membership, but we only have 30 packets. Now, if we run out of packets, I will absolutely go make a couple more. I'm not above that, but we make 30. Usually it's very seldom that we hand out all 30, but if we hand out 25, we're probably going to get, 18 or 20 new cadets. Okay. The most we've done, I think, in one cohort was 24 or 25 cadets. So, that's why we hand out about 30. That's our system has figured that out. So, but don't forget, a good membership packet costs a couple of bucks. So you're not going to hand out 100 of these things. Like I said before, in the whole description of the sales funnel, the initial part, the awareness part, you are casting a very wide net. You want to use inexpensive materials at that point to get them down to the unit, to talk to you, to get them within that 1 meter range, so you can then eventually hand them a packet. So if you talk to 100 people and 10 show up, well, you didn't want to hand out 100 packets. That's too much money. That's crazy. I would never spend that much money. So think about where in that funnel you're going to be and where the most bang for the buck happens. Okay. So let's talk about costs here. So what do these really cost? Okay. They cost about $2 a piece. And I say about because if you go, I'm hesitant to say the word of the company, but one of the big office supply stores that's in the area, we'll just say that. If you go to their printing department and you submit a bulk order for printing, because some of this stuff you can print way more than you need in advance, it doesn't change that much. Your printing for 40 packets winds up being about $45. You buy folders, they're about 60 cents a pop. You've got labels that you're going to put on there, about $2.50 in labels. So, all told, you're going to spend about 70 or 75 bucks in materials to build these packets. So if you hand out all 40, that's about $1.78 in the case of what I've calculated here. It's about $1.78. It's probably a good guess that somewhere around $2 though, because not everybody's getting the same price for printing and that sort of thing. But again, we build about 30 cadet packets and 10 senior member packets for each one of our membership periods. And it winds up costing us right in that range of cost. Actually, at some point in time, it seems like, almost the bigger cost, because we get a lot of printing donated. The bigger cost is actually the folders. So remember, you want to hand these out to the people who are fully qualified for membership, not just the tire kickers. If you're interested in a sample member packet materials, in the recruiting materials field submitted repository, or the field submitted materials repository, I get that backwards all the time. You can go to this URL right here, bit.ly/recruiting materials. And under member packets, there's a zip file containing all of the documents that my unit uses for our membership packets. They're in different sizes. Some of it's designed to be printed in color. Some of it's designed to be printed in black and white. All the files that are in there, with the exception of the files provided by National Headquarters, are in Word document format, so you can modify them to your heart's content and go crazy. There's absolutely no reason why you can't just pretty much sit down and do a find and replace on a lot of this stuff. Now, I'm going to tell you, because it's based on this way my unit does it, if you want to do it the way we do it and we use cohort recruiting, that's fine. If your unit doesn't use cohort recruiting, there are still aspects of this packet that you can certainly use. Modify to your heart's content. You may look at something and say, oh, we don't do it that way, I want to rewrite this. Go right ahead. That's why it's a Word document. You can go crazy with it. The other thing to think about is, if you have materials that you want to submit, in other words, hey, we have membership packets too, and we have these, well, this is our welcome letter, and this is our fact sheet, and this is our membership process sheet, and you think it's pretty good and you would like me to put it in the materials repository, send it to me. I will absolutely do that. I will not hesitate. Just send it to me. My email will be at the end of the presentation here, and you can take a quick look and go crazy. So let me see here. So I'm going to bring up a window here. Just give me a second. I got to figure out how to do this. This is, I won't say it's my first time doing this, but it's certainly not the only time I've done this. Whoops. I want to make sure that I'm doing this right. I've managed to whoops, I just completely dragged my window right across the thing there. I am going to stop screen sharing for just a second here. Whoops. Okay, that's my mug. Unfortunately, there you get to see, because I've stopped the screen sharing, and I'm going to let's see, bring up, here we go. I want to see if anybody's got any questions. Usually there's a few questions here. Let me see. Okay, hey, I got some folks here in the chat. Sorry about that. I had the wrong window up earlier, and I realized that the group chat wasn't showing me anything. So welcome, everybody. Let's see. Looking to see if we got any questions. Fort Campbell. Hey, Chuck, good to see you. I hope your uniform's looking good, buddy. Jim, good to see you. Stock up on folders in the back to school in the fall. Absolutely. That is absolutely a great time to do it. You know, school supplies, that's when they're ramping up, is in the fall. You know, if you know you're gonna hand out 40 packets over the course of each cohort, we do cohort recruiting, but you know, you figure it out pretty quickly that, okay, we're going to use 80 packets this year. We're going to use 80 folders. Buy 80 folders when they're, you know, 25 cents a piece versus 60 cents a piece. It's not like they're going to go bad. They don't get moldy. Well, in some CAP squadrons, they might get moldy depending on how bad your can I change the photo? Thanks a lot, Jim. Thanks a whole bunch. All right, I'll go back to sharing my my screen there with the questions slide on it. There, you don't get to look at my mug anymore, but I can see the questions now. Anybody else have any questions regarding membership packets? Where do I suggest marketing to get new cadet prospects? Well, that's always the fun one. The thing is, um, where you go where the kids are. Go where the cadets are. If you can get into the school, that's great. A lot of squadrons have trouble getting into the schools. Um, you know, One of the things that Pennsylvania Wing has started doing, and we're going to talk about this next month, is what they call STEM fairs instead of open houses. So they hold a STEM fair. They get aerospace education members to help out. They get local educators to come. That helps them recruit more aerospace education members. Eventually, what winds up happening is you get a little bit of a toehold in the school where you got, Mr. Smith and Mr. Johnson and Mrs. Uh, 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 I can't even make up a name, but Mrs. Davis over here, these science teachers, they're all aerospace education members. Now they're kind of rogered up on Civil Air Patrol, and they go, Timmy, you seem to be interested in this thing, and I know the local unit is having an open house, so why don't you go to it? Here's a flyer. So that's a good way to kind of get into the schools sort of in the back door. I hate to use that term, but where you can, sort of, it's different walking up to the front of the school and kind of knocking on the door and saying, "Hi, principal, I'd like to come in and talk to your cadets or your students about recruiting." Um, it's a little different when you have a teacher who says, this Civil Air Patrol thing is a lot of interesting science stuff going on there. So that's one way to do it. We also do a lot of Facebook advertising. So we've done that, had a lot of good luck there. But the biggest way still is face-to-face, mouth-to-mouth, mouth-to-mouth, that's not right. But face-to-face, person-to-person, connection. So, your cadets go out and bring their buddies in and that sort of thing. So we have a question here. How long should the meeting be? Roswell, it's about 45 minutes. Sir, do you mean regular squadron meeting, or do you mean like an informational meeting? If you're talking about like an open house, yeah, the open house shouldn't be as long as your normal meeting. Our presentation during our open house, the first half hour is just like kind of mingle around and people check out all of our displays and the simulator and stuff like that. And then we do about a 20-minute long presentation just about Civil Air Patrol, real high level orientation, straightforward. That's it. And then we ask if anybody has any questions. Occasionally we'll do like a promotion or an award presentation or something like that in front of everybody. And then we have food. And food is the ultimate recruiter, because while you're standing there with a plate full of cookies and a cup of punch, you will talk to people. And people always like food. So food is the thing you hand out at the, after you've done your presentation. You say, "Hey, here's the food. And by the way, if you're interested in membership, you'll see the blue packets are for prospective cadets, and red are for prospective senior members. So see somebody who's carrying around a blue or red packet and get a packet before you go home. And the biggest thing is keep coming back." And that winds up being an hour, hour and a half. I mean, total, from the time people are walking in and mingling and looking at our displays and stuff like that, to the presentation, to the mingle around time with food, is like an hour and a half. So, I always, well, first off, you should never do applications at the meeting. People need to come to 3 meetings before the question is, should the application be prepared during the meeting, or can the cadets be brought home? Can the cadets application be brought home to bring back as soon as possible? You have to come to 3 meetings. That's sort of the rule. If you have somebody who give them to sign on the line that's dotted right then and there, it doesn't always work out, because then they get 2 or 3 weeks down the road and they go, "Oh, this really wasn't what I thought it was going to be. My mom dropped $40 and now, oh, I don't want to go." Whereas if you give them that solid 3 weeks, 3 meetings before they turn in paperwork, then that's an opportunity. Also, I will put in a pitch for the online membership application through the national headquarters, e-services system. The online cadet membership application is an absolute godsend in terms of making your administrative life so much easier. So we have a simple URL on our website. It's, instead of having mom and dad type in the kind of more complicated URL that they have, it's our web URL, concordcap.org/apply-now. Boop, takes them right to the online application. And then we have a sheet that's in our packet. And if you go to the sample packet, that sheet's in there, and it's how to, it shows you how to go through and fill out the online cadet membership application. Lindsay Jackson, you've been, oh, whoops, I had a whole bunch of things pop up. Holy smokes. Local homeschool, sorry, Teresa, local homeschool association. Yes, absolutely. Reaching out to the homeschool association has had great dividends, and we're going to be doing a webinar about that here pretty soon as well. There's some ways around, some keywords and tricky phrases, as we say. Application and fingerprint card on the second visit. That's absolutely true. Actually, Ed, we don't even put a Form 12 or a fingerprint card in our senior member packets anymore. I just say that because it makes people feel comfortable. But we have a sheet that looks a little bit like the Form 12. And basically, we key in their information in the PDF and then print it out. And the printed out version is what goes to national headquarters for senior members. That way, something doesn't get down to national headquarters and they have to read chicken scratch. Nope. Because I've had too many membership applications, or a guy's name pops up in e-services and it's completely wrong. And it's like, oh, his chicken scratch is terrible. So we actually have them fill out sort of an informational sheet, which we then use to key in the information into the Form 12 PDF. We print it, they sign it, and that goes off with their fingerprint card. And we fingerprint our members at the meeting. We have a fingerprint kit. So anyway, it's about 40 minutes into the presentation. I don't want to cut anybody off. You guys got some more questions, I'm happy to answer them, but I do like to keep these, I won't say short, but I don't want to let them go on too long because they do get a little crazy and nobody wants to sit through me rambling on and answering questions. So I invite everybody to come and visit next month. We'll be doing a presentation about the Pennsylvania Wing STEM Fair programs and how they do the STEM fairs instead of the open house like a lot of units do. They've taken on this wing-wide thing where they're doing a STEM fair where they're bringing people, all kinds of interested people in, educators and students, and Civil Air Patrol happens to be there and running it. So, hey, look at us, we're Civil Air Patrol. So it's great. It's a really good concept. So last question I had pop up here was, Ed Danley, fingerprinting doesn't need to be done by the police? Nope, it does not. It can be done by the police, but in our area, the police charge $25 and nobody wants to spend that. So one of our senior members is a retired cop, and he donated a fingerprint kit to the squadron, and he taught everybody how to roll prints. And we've only had like 3 sets of prints in the last 5 years come back. So we do okay. So in any event, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to email me, dninnis@cap.gov, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. And like I said in the presentation, if you have a material, some kind of a material you would like to add and to the packets, I'm happy to add it. Yes, Teresa, we'll be sending out an email for that event that's going to be next month as soon as we have the date pinned down. So you'll see a email go out in the next couple weeks. Yeah, probably a couple weeks. Thanks very much, everybody. Really appreciate your time tonight, and we'll look forward to seeing you next month.